Hello again! Welcome back. As always, this is Becca going by Netcat or Netcat's Meow when online, and we're back once again to talk Linden scripting language. This week is actually going to be a bit of a departure from my norm in the sense that it's not really going to be so much of a complete project this time, as it is going to be a important part of something that can go into a lot of projects. We're going to start talking about Rezzing. That is how to use a specific scripted object to put other objects in world. This is a fundamental part of everything from scene resers like the Horizon holodeck or some of the stuff I'm working on here for this sim. It's an important part of projectile weapons. I use it in my personal light cycle mod, the Skywalkers, where you can actually get a platform that appears underneath you and keeps you from falling. It's important to all of those. So we're going to go ahead and start off because I've been getting good responses for the somewhat shorter video recently. So I'm going to make a point of trying to keep all of them shorter, no more of the super hour-long videos. But that does mean that sometimes we're going to cover something basic, and then I spend the next few weeks showing you how to use it in different ways to produce different results. So, all that said, let's get on to the command for Rezzing. Alright, here we are away from my window. We're going to start out with the thing you want to res an object out of. As usual, the Mark 1 cube. Hello, cube. And our constant start, the new script. We're going to put the res command here in touch start because it's going to be easier to repeatedly test it that way than if we stick it in state entry. We can actually clear state entry for now. Now this is one that has a lot of parameters, so it's easiest just to hit the wiki and grab the actual string off of there. So here we have llRezObject and a list of its different parameters. A string for the inventory. This will be whatever object inside you want to res. It has to be an object. It won't be able to call anything else. Everything else that you can possibly put in there, it has its own methods for handling. This is only for objects. Vector position. This will tell it where to res the object to. Vector velocity. That's actually only important if you're doing something that is going to move once it's been resed. It's basically, that would be how you launch something or how you fire something, is you give it an initial velocity. Rotation will give you the initial rotation of the object, and integer parameter. If you may recall, when we've had stuff that responds on res, we have an integer res. This is that integer, the parameter. You can feed an integer to an object on res. This allows you to have things respond in different ways. And we'll go over some of that when we go more in depth on what to do with it. But first, we're going to make sure that inside this cube, there is something to actually res. So we'll just duplicate our cube, title it cube, and we'll make this one a red cube. Take the cube, drop the cube in the object. So now we can take string inventory, cube. The position, that'll be where this is going to be resed to. If we start with, whoops, that was interpreted as typing it in the world instead of in here. Get position is a pretty common way to start it, but you don't want it to be the exact same position. It will occupy the same space as this cube. So let's adjust where the cube goes. So plus, vectors are always 3 points. Let's say 0.5, so a half a meter up. Velocity, we don't need it to move, and the object would have to, the cube would have to be set to physical. in order to do this. I'll show you a bit about that in just a minute. So we'll do null vector. Whoops, my own fault. It's actually 0 vector for that. Null works in other places, but vector, it's 0 vector. Rotation, simplest thing, get rot. And integer parameter, you have to have something here. Let's just put 0. We're not going to do anything with it, so. And the reason it just did that is a funny thing happens when you copy something in Second Life. I go shift up. This is the original. That was the copy. So copy and paste that, and we're good to go again. Don't save. All right, so now we're set, when we click it, to llRezObject, cube, just a little up from this position, with no velocity at the same rotation. Let's see if it works. There it is. The cube appeared directly on top. So we know that works. Now, the main thing I'm going to cover this week with this, because everything else would be diving into what do you do with it? How do you make it do a particular thing? So right now we're just going to look at what the different properties are. And then next week we're going to make the first project with actually what to do with them. So if we look at the different properties under feature, actually, no, what you need is object. Yeah, it is under object. Sorry, my apologies. You have physical, temporary, and phantom. These are the most important things you're going to worry about setting when you want to create to res a new object. Physical actually means it will be interactive with physics. You notice with most builds, it just floats there. It's like gravity is not a thing. But we know from how our avatars interact with the world that gravity is indeed a thing. So you set physical, all of a sudden the cube falls down. Also, funny thing, you can drag it around like you have telekinesis. I am moving the cube with my mind. Another thing you can do is temporary. We're going to make that cube temporary while we talk here. And turn it to glow up just to make it really easy to notice. Temporary is kind of just what it sounds. It is a temporary thing. That will delete itself automatically if we do nothing. It will just go away in a few minutes. So we make another cube. Phantom is, you can sort of think of it as the opposite of physics, whereas physics means physics will interact with the object. Phantom means that my physics won't interact with it. So you can say I can just go right through it. Oops. I can walk right through this cube, but I bump into the other two. So it's basically just a hologram. It is a completely non-interactive thing. Locked, you don't need to worry about for this. Locked prevents anything from editing. It's really only up. There it went. The temporary one automatically derezzed. I didn't do anything with it. I didn't program it to do that. It did that on its own. But as I was saying, locked is really only useful for sim owners. Or sim builders, I should say. Not just sim owners. For sim builders. With it locked, I can't really edit it. Everything else gets turned off, as though I had no mod rights to it. This is very useful if you're going through and don't want to accidentally delete or destroy something, or accidentally change something. Regrettably, you can still delete it. It won't stop you from doing that. I've discovered this with my build platform a little ways below a few times. It's very annoying. So that's the fundamentals of res. We can go ahead and do just a brief little look at how things interact. We can go in object, physical, take, physical cube. Then alter this to have 0, 0, 20. That should give it force only upward. Yep, and it went right through my ceiling. It went to my ceiling and it just kept right on going. That is a funny thing about the physics in SL. And I'm actually going to have to find that cube later since that one was not temp. There you go. My block tower. Unfortunately, I now have to clean all these up since they're not temp. But that gives you your first basic information on res. It, as I say, anytime you need to create an object in world, projectile guns, scene resers, standing platforms, my little art piece simplicity complex, which is down because I needed the prim allotment for a few minutes. I'm actually going to be turning it back on later. May even show you all the parameters that went into making it work. But that is a basic first lesson on res and a shorter than usual video. As I said, I'm sorry that there's not going to be much to this one, but it means that next week we build off of this to start doing things with this and start showing you how knowing how to script the different pieces of things can very much change what you can do with res. A great example, I will probably start with how to create a scene rezzing environment. That way I can show you how the ability to move objects we've already gone over is going to help you out. For those of you that have small plots in SL for your homes, it'll come in really handy to be able to change parts around with that. So I think that'll be pretty useful to you. So come back next week and we will get into that. Okay, and so that was it. Again, I thank you all for coming for this video on Linden scripting language. I try to have these posted every Tuesday by noon Eastern Standard Time. And as always, a like or comment helps a lot. It helps me know that this is really doing some good things for you all. And any recommendations you have for things you want to see, want to understand, or even just information that on how this is or is not working for you. If there's some part of how I do these that is making it harder for you to follow or particularly easier, I would definitely benefit from knowing these things. I do these for you. I do this for the love of scripting, and I do this to spread the programmery goodness across the grid, and eventually I'll do this for non-SL languages like C++ and Java, JavaScript, C#, some of the rest of those, and by the time I get through those, I'll probably have picked up something else to make videos about. So, again, feel free to contact me in World. A couple of you have. I really appreciate it. And so I guess that's it. This is Becca, going by Netcat or Netcat's Meow when online, signing off for the week.